What's up, boys? I'm having my first major issue with the C8. Not super excited about it. Just made it back from California the other day, put over 4,000 miles on the car on this trip. It was a ton of fun, met great people. It was really cool to experience the car in that aspect. It stayed comfortable the entire time, which I think is super impressive for a sports car. But I came home and there is an issue with the car and it seems to be pretty major. So I'm gonna go show you guys what that is. Wow, this thing is dirty. It deserves a wash, but I'm having trouble doing it because every single time I turn off the car, I can't turn it back on. I'm gonna explain why right now. All right, we made it inside the car right now. Our first morning in LA, we come out to the car to start it up, and I pushed the trunk button to open the frunk. And to my dismay, there was no result, so we're gonna give it a try right now. Yep, as I expected, not gonna work. I was like, did we leave lights on inside? Is there any way the battery's dead? But when I pushed the start button, the dash lit up, which we'll give that a shot right now. So we've got power, 22,000 miles, press brake to start. Let's go ahead and try to start it. Foot on the brake, push the start button. And I did not think so. Service transmission is what I was met with our first morning in LA, which is not what you want to see after a 1,500 mile road trip to a place that is very far from home. I was a little concerned. Obviously the car wouldn't start. Every time I push the start button, it says press start again and nothing happens. I have power. I have a wireless code reader that I always leave on the car, so I opened up the app and connected it, and it said current transmission range unknown. So I went ahead and I cleared the codes. I noticed that my parking brake was on, which I had not put on, and my button that indicates being in park was not lit up. When I cleared the codes, I actually heard the parking brake disengage, and it kind of makes like a whirring noise, like a wheat, and the light in the park button actually lit up. I went ahead and I turned it off from accessory mode, and I went to start it again, and it started up. I was like, okay, great, problem solved. I didn't know why I got the code. Obviously, I was a little bit concerned, but as I went to drive the car, there didn't seem to be any problems with the shifting, with the transmission, and that's what the code was for. Obviously, I've Googled the code. There's nothing on forums. I don't think anybody else has had this problem. I thought my issue was over. We drove to quite a few places that day, and every time we came back out to the car, it would start right up. So we returned to our parking garage that night, and the next morning we come back out, same issue. So I cleared the codes, it started back up, and we were good for that day. Happened again and again throughout the trip, and obviously I was concerned. I was doing my best to research it, but there was nothing I could really do. I'm 1,500 miles from home, and I had things I needed to do while I was in town, and I had to do them with my car, which is why I brought it there in the first place. So I just made sure to be careful with how I was driving, paying attention to how I was shifting, etc. Everything seemed to be fine as long as I was clearing the codes and I was able to start it. It seemed that this issue only occurred when the car was left for multiple hours, which is why it only happened when it was left overnight. But then on our way home, we stopped at a gas station. I ran inside and I came back out and the problem happened, and I had only been outside of the car for a couple of minutes. So I was a little more concerned, but I cleared the code. It worked. We completed our drive home without it happening again. The evening I got home, I had parked on the driveway and I needed to move it into the garage, and it wouldn't start. So I cleared my codes. It still wouldn't start. This is when I started to get a little bit more concerned, and I was realizing that this might be a bigger issue than what I had originally thought. What was happening was I would clear the codes and the park button would light up and the parking brake would disengage. But then like a second later, the park light would go away again and the park brake would re-engage. I had had a previous electrical issue where when I rolled down the driver's window, I couldn't roll it back up. The solution was to disconnect the battery for a while and let it reset. And when I reconnected it, it was fine. So I took the same approach with this. I disconnected the battery for 15 minutes and I came back, and upon going to start the car, it started right up. So I moved it into the garage, and I've now been doing my best to avoid driving it. And any time that I've tried to start it, I've had to disconnect the battery and wait for it to reset for me to even start it. I'm going to go ahead and look through the manual and make sure that I didn't miss any maintenance. Obviously, I'm at 22,000 miles. I don't think I missed anything, but I'm just going to double check to make sure I haven't missed any fluid changes or filter changes that could be causing my problem. But I really think this is an electronical issue because it was being solved by just clearing the codes, and now it's solved by just letting it reset by disconnecting the battery. I don't think it's mechanical. The car drives completely fine when I'm driving it, but I'm gonna go ahead and look through the manual and then I'll update you guys. Your first transmission fluid change is supposed to be at 45,000 miles, so I'm just about halfway there. Your first transmission canister filter change must be performed at 7,500 miles. That was done. That filter has been changed, and it says thereafter every 22,500 miles, which as it reads, I would think that would mean at 30,000 miles, because that's the additional 22,500 after the 7,500 mile change. But on the maintenance schedule, it says that your second change should be at 22,500 miles. So I'm like 500 miles off that, so I'll need to do that. But that shouldn't be a reason for the issue I'm having right now, because although it's coming up, it's not like I'm past it. I haven't even gotten to it yet. And even if I were, let's say, a little bit behind, which I'm not, I wouldn't think that would be causing this issue. As you can see here, upon getting back in, it says always shift to park after exiting. That actually went away right as I was reading it, but it said always shift to park after exiting, which obviously the car is in park. I never activated the parking brake, and I had it in park. With your foot pressed on the brake, you can't put it in park, you can't put it in neutral. Conditions not correct for shift is what it says if you try to do that. Do that again. So you can't put it in neutral, you can't put it in park. I can't take off the parking brake. This is the indicator for the parking brake, and obviously that is on. And just for good measure, foot pressed on the brake all the way down. Can't start it. It says press start again. I'll press it again. Service transmission every time I push it. So right now I'm gonna have to go ahead and disconnect my battery, otherwise it's gonna die. Since I've been having this issue, if you have it in accessory mode, you can't turn it off without disconnecting the battery. Obviously I don't want it to die because I don't even know if I'll be able to jump it or start it. And I don't even know if it would start if it were jumped. So now I have to go through the process of disconnecting the battery just so it doesn't die. But that's really all I wanted to share with this video, just kind of share the problem I'm experiencing. I'll definitely share an update when I get it in and when I figure out what's going on with it. Feel free to leave any input in the comments or DM me on Instagram. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you soon.